We're back again on Lutherans Alive with Pat Martelli, working in Cooperative Ministry in the Carrick neighborhood with Stewart Avenue Lutheran and Birmingham United Church of Christ.
Yes.
Pat, thanks again for taking the time to come in. You did such a wonderful job earlier describing that Northwestern farm experience as a young person, and it made me wonder, and I'm sure maybe some of our viewing audience are wondering, where was it along the way that a woman from Northwestern Ohio begins to hear the call or sense the opportunity to serve the Lord and the church in mission and ministry?
It's an interesting story. God does work in mysterious ways. Well, I grew up in the church, and the church was always part of my life. And I got married young and had 3 children and loved it, and moved to Michigan for a little while, and then came back. And but I'd always been involved in church.
Mm-hmm.
And then my marriage fell apart, and kind of that ground that I was basing my life on was really eroding away, and where was my hope? And then during that time, I really took a look at my life and said, where do I put my trust in faith? Where is that? What is that? And if I had, if money were no problem at all in my life, what is it that I would do? And it would be to work in the church. Because at the most critical times in my life, it's been God that has gotten me through. So I told God, I'm not going to seminary. And God said, And so I went out and bought a new car and said, see, I cannot afford to go to seminary. and God said, And then I told my mother, who is very conservative and really doesn't like women pastors. And I said, Mom, I'm thinking about going to seminary. And she looked at me and her 80-year-old eyes and said, I think that's a wonderful idea. And I thought, oh, dear. So I went to seminary, never missed a car payment the whole time I was in seminary, which was an amazing thing. And I thought, well, I could do some small country church. They would certainly need some help. Went on internship to Pittsburgh. Fell in love with the city. Went back for my senior year, and my first call was in Battle Creek, Michigan. And Michigan's economy is not a very good right now.
Very difficult.
Yes, very difficult. And I never pictured myself as a pastor in a city. I always pictured myself more rural. But God calls you and equips you for what God intends. And I bring that, I haven't been on the farm for a number of years, but I bring that tradition of my own and my own grounding to the city, and somehow that works. Those talents and gifts are used here too. John Cochran, who is a retired pastor, ELCA pastor, from the north side, told me once, he said, you know, you people from the farm do really well in city ministry because you are always so full of hope. You come to a city and see opportunities. And sometimes when people are raised in the city, they see all the reasons why it won't work. But he said, my experience is those people from the farm always see the bright side of things.
Not afraid of a little hard work.
Yeah, no, not afraid of a little hard work. And that was always encouraging to me. And I don't know why God calls you to a specific place at a specific time. But I am called here. I love Pittsburgh. Never thought I'd live in a city, but I love living in a city. So it is now my home. And I will tell you that when I was called, we won the Super Bowl and the Stanley Cup, both in that same year. So I figure that it must be meant to be.
These are all positive signs.
These are all positive signs. So I think that what I would tell people about ministry and call is that it may not be within your vision of where God calls you, but you'll know when you are called to a certain place or a certain ministry, and this is for laity too. I'm not talking about ordained. I'm saying if someone asks you to teach a Sunday school class and you say, oh, I could never do that, you pray about it and you think about it. And even if you're scared, if you feel like God is calling you to that, go ahead and do it. God will equip you, and you'll be surprised. It is a surprise. God equipped me for the ministry that I'm doing right now, and it's wonderful. I didn't envision it, but God does equip you for what God's purpose is.
And I think what you say is very true, that the voice of God is often heard through the voice of our brothers and sisters in the faith.
Yes.
The words of encouragement,
Yes.
the leading questions, the positive reinforcement and encouragement that you hear from people that would lead you to wonder, who, me?
Let's talk about cooperative ministry just one more time, in that who would have thought a UCC church and an ELCA church would be in cooperative ministry? When you think of cooperative ministry, you think of the same faith tradition or the same denomination. But it happened. And we're going forward looking at the things on which we agree. And we look at the differences in both of our traditions, and we say that enriches us. We don't have to agree on absolutely everything. It enriches the ministry. And I think that's true within a congregation too, that we need to be together even in our differences, because it enriches the whole.
Mm-hmm. How would you describe what some of those traditions are that are the differences that we still need to look at? One that you mentioned was perhaps a slightly different appreciation of Scripture in terms of God is still speaking
God
to
is still
us.
speaking.
Lutherans tend to be a bit more settled on some of those kinds of things. What other kinds of things do they have to just make a little room for each other in terms of going forward?
I believe that our vision of the sacraments are somewhat different, although the UCC comes out of the Reformation still.
Sure.
But you know, our how we articulate communion and Christ's presence in communion is a little bit different than the UCC's. But the same words are said, and we believe that Christ is present. Mine is a little bit different presence, maybe a different timing than theirs, but Christ is present in the assembly. So they have there is a remembrance for them. For me, it is the true presence of Christ. So does that prevent us from communing together? No, because it is about God and it is about Christ. So there are some differences, and there's a different polity, how the two churches work politically. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting is that both churches, the laity has looked at our bishop and their conference minister and said, we don't know exactly what you need to do, but this is working fine at ground level. Mm-hmm. So you work out those other things, and we'll just go ahead and do ministry. And isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. That's something truly to celebrate, that people are open to moving forward on a basis that both can feel comfortable and working together to make that happen.
Yes.
Pat, thanks so much for taking the time to come in and share with us. We're already at the end of our time today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for being with us today on Lutherans Alive. We hope you've enjoyed this opportunity to hear about a positive and hopeful situation in the Carrick Ministries in southwestern Pennsylvania. Until next time, this is Lutherans Alive. Good day, and God bless you.